No one to walk with, all by myself. No one to talk with, but I'm happy on the shelf. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. I know for certain, but when I love, I'm through with flirting. It's just you I'm thinking of. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. Like Jack Horner in a corner, I don't go nowhere. What do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Do you believe me? I don't go out much, don't care to go. I'm home about 8, just me and my radio. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you, you, you. Like Jack Horner in a corner, I don't go nowhere, so what do I care? Your kisses are worth waiting for. Leave me, I don't go out much. Why should I? I'd rather stay home with my digital recorder. Your order. Yeah. I'm saving all my love for you. Don't interrupt me, Bob. I'm singing. Ain't misbehaving, saving all my love for you. If you ever plan to move west, to travel my way, and take the highway, that's the best. I said to get your kicks on Route 66. It'll wind from Chicago to LA. More than 2,000 miles all the way. I said to get your kicks on Route 66. You can go through St. Louis and Joplin, Missouri, and Oklahoma City is mighty, mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico. You'll see flags of Arizona. Don't forget Winona, Kingsland, Barstow, San Bernardino. And you should get hip to my trip if you're hip and you take your California trip. I said to get your kicks on Route 666. Stop me back to me. I get your kicks on Route 66. Keep it driving. It winds from Chicago to LA today. 2,000 miles if you only plan to go one way. I said get your kicks on Route 66. Break out your maps now. Or you can go to St. Louis and Joplin, Missouri, and Oklahoma City. It's mighty, mighty pretty, you see. Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico. You speak Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. If you should get hip to my tip, if you're hip, then you taking a trip to California today. I said get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66. I said get your kicks on Route 66. Wow. Yeah. Don't know why there's no sun up in the sky. Stormy weather since my man and me ain't together. Keep raining all the time. Life is bad, gloom and misery everywhere. Stormy weather, can't get my poor self together. Keep raining all the time. Since he went away, blues crept in and left me. And if he stays too long, old rocking chair will get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me walk in the sun once more. Can't go on. Everything I have is gone. Stormy weather since my man and me ain't together. Keep raining all the time. All the time. Since he went away, blues crept in and left me. If he stays too long, a rocking chair is gonna get me. All I do is pray the Lord above will let me stormy weather since my man and me can't be together. Keep raining all the time. Stormy weather, keep raining all of the summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich, and your mama good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. One of these mornings, you're gonna rise up singing. Then you'll spread your wings and take to the sky. And on that morning, there is nothing that can harm you. With daddy and mommy standing by. Summertime, and the living is so easy. The fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Your daddy's rich, and your mama is good looking. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. So hush, little baby, don't you cry. So hush, little baby, don't you
Don't unmute.
I wanted that. Oh.
Good evening. I am Yvonne Cooper Knight Carter, and I do answer to all of those names. And I am the chair of the Center's Board of Directors. Welcome to the 2021 Commitment to Justice honoring Dr. Millicent E. Brown. We regret that we can't be together tonight in person, but are extremely pleased that we are all able to gather together virtually this evening in honoring Dr. Brown. We have some incredible live speakers this evening, as well as some engaging video in tribute to Dr. Brown and her relentless pursuit of justice. I may be the chair of the Center's board, but most importantly, I'm also a participant in the Center's Sustainable Forestry Program. I love the Center and am very grateful. The knowledge I have gained has changed in some ways and enhanced our family's life in the way we think and act around the legacy of our family land. My involvement with the Center has opened up a new world of experiences and adventures that I did not imagine for my retirement years. I was just supposed to come and kick back. I've traveled to Washington for the DC fly-in with the American Forest Foundation, attended many forestry conferences, and was even featured nationally on the PBS program, America's Forests with Chuck Lavelle. I'm a church organist, and Mr. Lavelle visited my church during the filming. And can you imagine sharing that experience of playing with the keyboardists of the Rolling Stones? Amazing. Most recently, I am now serving on the Woodland Operating Committee for the American Forest Foundation. Our family was selected as the Tree Farmers of the Year for District 11. And I was featured in a national video produced for the USDA about fire breaks in forest land. Trust me, I have firsthand knowledge as to the importance of fire lines, being that we had a lightning fire in our farm last year. I'm a serious cheerleader for the Center, and I'm grateful for not only what they've done for me and my family, but for the hundreds of other families in the 22 counties the Center serves. This evening, I'm here to welcome you all on behalf of the board and staff of the Center for Heirs Property Preservation. And thank you for your superlative support of this annual event, with special mention going to the top sponsors. Please feel free to applaud at home in appreciation for their support of this event. And now, our $5,000 presenting sponsors, the Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture, and the Charleston County Bar Association. Our $2,500 presenting sponsors, Ag First Farm Credit Bank, the firm of Clement Rivers LLP, Robin Chandler Duke Foundation, Ms. Tish Lynn, law offices of Gedney M. Howell III, PA, Jean and Doris Hundley, and State Farm Bank. South State, oh boy. Giving somebody else credit. Thank you, sponsors. And now it is my pleasure to introduce to you the CEO and founder of the Center for Heirs Property Preservation. She has led the organization from its beginning with a staff of 5 to present with a staff of 30 energetic, dedicated, and hardworking individuals. Under her leadership, the center has expanded its work throughout 22 counties, and soon, along with our Opportunity Center partners, we will be moving into a new home at the Opportunity Center. The center's work continues to impact in a major way the lives of African-American families and communities, and even beyond our service areas. Dr. Jenny is a woman with a vision, passion for the work, and brilliant at what she does. We love her and the spirit in which she works with us all in carrying out the work of the center. I present to you Dr. Jenny Stevens, the CEO and for the Center of Heirs Property Preservation.
Good evening, and thank you, Ms. Yvonne. I don't know who she's talking about. It's not me. It is a pleasure to be here tonight, and I want to welcome everyone. And I'm also told to share with you that our online auction, which is a part of this evening's event, will continue through tomorrow, Friday, at 11:59 p.m. So for those of you who are in the room and those of you who are watching us virtually, guess what? Go online, please bid on something at our auction. We are celebrating the center's 11th Commitment to Justice event with our distinguished honoree, Dr. Millicent E. Brown. Let's give her all hand praise. Following up with last year's virtual event, our hope was that we wanted to be able to hug somebody in person, but unfortunately, that is not the case this year. The center, along with our host committee, decided to hold this event virtually. It is about keeping everyone safe and healthy. There are just a few of us who are here in the beautiful Francis Marion Hotel. We're practicing our social distancing skills. We're wearing masks when we're not speaking. And we are specifically streaming this event live to you tonight. It's nice to know that even as this global pandemic continues, justice, or in our case, commitment to justice, cannot be stopped. We welcome you this evening virtually here on this Zoom platform. The center is proud to have with us tonight the recipient of this year's Commitment to Justice Award, as we said earlier, Dr. Millicent E. Brown. Dr. Brown is a native of Charleston and truly a lifelong participant in the civil rights activism. The center is indeed privileged to have this tireless warrior and activist for civil rights as its 2021 Commitment to Justice Award honoree. We thank you and we honor you here tonight, Dr. Brown, for your tenacity, your leadership, and your inspiration in seeking justice. We are humbled and we're gracious to allow us to pay tribute to you and by accepting this award tonight. So once again, we thank you. We thank everyone who is joining us remotely here this evening, including our past Commitment to Justice recipients. We were saddened a few days ago because we learned about the passing of our 2015, and I'm just going to say CTJ for Commitment to Justice honoree, the Honorable Lucille Simmons Whipper, who was known as a great lady with an iron will. Our thoughts and our prayers are with her family. Truly, the work she has done has spoken for us. Let's give a silent moment for the Honorable Ms. Lucille Whipper. We are also pleased to have an inspirational program lined up to share with you, including some special video pieces produced specifically for tonight's celebration. You have been emailed a program for tonight's event, but we will, especially if you're a ticket holder, expect to receive one in the mail soon. A nice, beautiful printed copy within the next week, okay? So it'll be your keepsake honor, not only for Dr. Brown, but for all of us. It is a privilege to thank all of you for your generous support in raising almost $60,000 for this event tonight. There we go. Excuse me. It is a great tribute to Dr. Brown and her accomplishments, and to the center's work, which is in its own way a very real response to the need for equity and justice here in South Carolina. 16 years ago, a number of us in the philanthropic and social justice community around Charleston decided we should no longer accept further loss of African-American family land. Not only was land loss severing the connections of families to their land-based heritage and culture, but it was also draining away the economic potential of Black communities, both rural and urban. We knew that the widespread condition of heirs property was preventing productive use of the land by the new generations of landowners. Resolving heirs property is key to stabilizing land ownership. The center employs what I call our 3-bucket strategy, all of which are designed to generate and root local wealth. First bucket is about preventing the loss of land. And we do that through landowner engagement, education, and organizing, and definitely some legal services and drafting of wills. The second bucket is what we call our resolution bucket, and where we are resolving any title issues that are associated with the land. And last but not least is our third bucket. It's our land utilization bucket. We are providing the technical assistance to the landowners so that they can restore the ecological health and the productivity of their forests and farmland. You know, making the land work for them rather than them working for the land. You know, when we began this endeavor, many thought that the problem of land loss was so complex that it could not be fixed. Well, if you know me, you know I like challenges, right? But also so did the community. We saw opportunity. Consequently, there is now a landowner movement that has the power to unleash the cultural and natural resources of land in historically served communities toward family wealth creation and to ecological restoration. As Ms. Yvonne said earlier, the center staff, now nearly 30 strong, they support this robust group of landowner advocates. we've started an economic and conservation movement that creates intergenerational wealth among historically underserved landowners. Even though this initiative started around the issue of Black land loss, we've grown because it's about the phrase that I often use is that low income folk don't sit around the dinner table and talk about estate planning. And race knows no boundaries to that. And so for us, it is about making sure the entire community, they're holding on to the land. The center protects family land by equipping the families with the tools they need to build wealth and grow healthy working landscapes. We believe that the prevention of continued loss of family land and investing in generational family wealth is one way to address inequity and social injustice. As the roots of the center, excuse me, as the roots of the center's services, they deepen within South Carolina, we've become a regional and a national leader on the issue of heirs property, wealth creation, and land conservation. You know, we started out serving 4 counties and people kind of downplayed our work, but now who are they calling? Because we've perfected it. And now they want to partner with us. And we owe that all to our landowners, our community, and our board. And we celebrate our 16 years, but we're not looking back. The center is scaling its work by assuming broader leadership in a movement that will find its strength in its landowner leadership and find its growth in expanded partnerships with state, regional, and national racial justice, legal, philanthropic, government, you name it. Whoever wants to play with us, we're ready. Last year, we continued our expansion, adding an additional 4 South Carolina counties. We now serve a total of 22 counties with additional expansion on the way. We at the center are on the move. Our goal is to provide our combined legal and forestry education and services across the entire state of South Carolina. To do that, we're developing a business plan to map out our expansion and how best to achieve it. We're following the same process as any business would. What are our goals? How do we accomplish them? And how do we fund them? We also have a strong and committed board with Ms. Yvonne Knight Carter at the helm. She's one of our strongest personal advocates, or as I like to say, one of our cheerleaders. Please join me in thanking all of our board members who are supporting and watching tonight. The center has already realized national benchmarks for our work. One is being a lead organization in the U.S. Endowment for Forestry and Communities, long name, Sustainable Forestry and Land Retention Program. And we were one of the 10 recipients of the 2018 HUD Secretary Carson's Award for Public Philanthropic Partnerships. Other national benchmarks recently include being mentioned in the New Yorker magazine and ProPublica in an article on Black land loss that went on to win several major journalism awards and brought national recognition to the center. Our good work was also profiled and showcased on the PBS program to which Ms. Yvonne alluded earlier, America's Forest with Chuck Lavelle. I didn't get to play the keyboard with him though. She had that privilege. As some of you may know, he is the keyboardist for the Rolling Stones. And then this show was also played in December of 2019 at the Smithsonian African American Museum on the Mall in Washington, D.C. Miss Mary Hill, Mr. Joe Hamilton, and Miss Yvonne Knight Carter, they were there. They were our featured landowners and were present at this premiere. Last fall, the center was recognized nationally by the conservation and philanthropic community when we convened a webinar in partnership with the Aspen Institute on the issue of heirs property. This past spring, We were featured nationally on the BET network on Soledad O'Brien's Disrupt and Dismantle documentary. And even just last Thursday night, we were part of a story featured on the NBC Evening News with Lester Holt. Landowners, the people and the families we serve, they are at the core of our mission. We have a longstanding tradition here doing CTJ, and that's to make sure we hear from at least one of our clients during the ceremony. Please watch as the center client, William Mackey, who is legally blind, and his brother Gerald share their story on how the legal work of resolving heirs' property is key to stabilizing ownership and allowing them to claim all the tax exemptions and benefits for William's disability. Please welcome William and Gerald Mackey.
I'm Gerald, and this is my brother William, and we are legal clients for the center. Our mother died in 1988, and at that time, she died intestate. We're her two heirs, but her name was still on the deed and title to the property. And so that we did not, 32 years ago when she died, I was not familiar with all of the probate process that people are more knowledgeable of today. My brother, who was blind, he lost his vision at 43, and he wanted to stay in the house, but the house needed some work. And a lot of the nonprofit agencies that I contacted at the time would not do the work because our mother's name was still on the deed and title. So I contacted an attorney to see what we can do to remove her name. And this law firm said it was a starting point was $10,000. So I thought that was a bit exorbitant just to get our mother's name off the title, since we are her apparent heirs. As divine providence would have it, my church had the outreach program had the heirs preservation agency to do a workshop at the church. And I attended that workshop, and they talked about heirs preservation, and they talked about forestry, how people can be able to keep their land and help to pay the taxes on the land if they have a lot of trees and that kind of stuff, a whole bunch of services that the agency provides. Attorney Hope Watson was very helpful along the way and getting us on the docket at the court to have my mother's name removed from the deed and title. And just the two of us, our names are now on that deed and title. So he is now open to more services that he would not have been able to if her name was still on the deed and title.
I spoke to Attorney Hope Watson, and then she figured out, explain everything to us.
He prefers staying in his own house, his own independence, and he does well on his own. And so he will now be able to get some of the services again because of his income, a lot of things that he can't do financially. The nonprofit agencies will be able to come in. So having that clear title is a great relief. A great relief. With my mother's name on the property, still on the property, even though she was deceased over 30 years, we were not able to get certain tax exemption, like the 4% tax exemption that he would have qualified for. He would not have been able to get a lot of the services through the nonprofit agencies because her name was on the property. The center is a godsend, and especially for people who don't have the financial means to go and do the title search, hire an attorney to do all of that they need done. The center has done a wonderful job for us, and I'm sure it worked for other people. And in fact, I even mentioned that I hope that workshop that we had at that church would be a regular thing because it was open to the public, the entire community. So we had people from all over the Sea Island, as far away as Edisto Island, Wadmalaw Island, Johns Island, even the city of Charleston attending that session that Saturday. The Santa charge, I think it was maybe just to do the deed and the recording, and I think that came out to in the paperwork that less than $300. And that's a far cry from $10,000 plus. I couldn't believe it myself. And they no charge for the service, the legal services. Only thing they charged for was, again, filing the paperwork with the courts and the Register of Deeds office and those kinds of things. Well, as I said, I just want to give a shout out to the center because they have helped us tremendously. And again, when you look at the cost that a law firm had offered, proposed, and what the service we were able to get through the center, there is no comparison. And I feel totally indebted to the center, and I'm sure William does as well.
Just to say, Santa really helped us a great deal.
Thank you, William and Gerald. We enjoy sharing individual stories and not just statistics. We are proud of having provided 3,260 people with free 1-hour advice and counsel sessions. A little under 800 clients who've received direct legal services to resolve title since our inception 16 years ago. We even draft wills. We're a little over 1,200 wills simple wills that we've drafted for free at wills clinics. And we've cleared 262, being dyslexic. And we have cleared 286 titles on family land with a total tax assessed value of $16.7 million. That is money that remains within families. And we're providing them with what they need to maximize the use of that family to make it a working asset. So before we proceed with the program, I want to give a big thanks to our host committee for tonight's event. Dr. Leonard McIntyre, who's also a board member, Antoinette Bennett Bluford, I hope I pronounced that right, Darren L. Calhoun II, Dr. Kendall Dees, Dr. Patricia Williams Lassane, Harriet Jenkins Simon, Fletcher Williams III, and Ellen Zizholtz. They deserve a big round of applause, which is a little difficult here during a virtual event, but let's try it. Woo! And now we will move on with the rest of the program. Introduction of video reflections. Dr. Brown, although we couldn't bring together everyone in person who wanted to celebrate your life and your contributions this evening, we have a couple of surprises for you. Thanks to COVID, we are all now familiar with Zoom. Any platform that you can use, we've all done it. We're literally Zoomed out. But the center staff, Brett Watford and Janessa Taylor, they were able to talk with a couple of your longtime friends and reflect on your lifetime of accomplishments. Let's hear from them.
When you first met Millicent, in 8th grade, what was your first impression of her?
First, she was extremely bright. Second, she was very vivacious. Third, she was warm and friendly and engaging. And whenever we had a conversation, by the way, that continues until today, I always felt better, really enjoyed it. And she also made me feel, as she does with many others, and I'm sure with her students as well over the years, that while we were talking, I was the only person in the universe that mattered. And that, I think, is an extremely important skill, no matter what career field you're in, for having a very effective impact for what you're trying to do, including civil rights, by the way.
So, Ambassador, when you think of commitment to justice, what comes to mind about Millicent's role in the pursuit of social justice and racial equality?
Well, clearly, her work in the civil rights movement, and having come from the family that I mentioned before, she almost couldn't avoid that. But that was also a part of her character. And she locked into that issue and moved on it with deliberate speed and determination to carry forward into the years when she was in academic work, and then later in her efforts with community service activities in a number of different states. All of that is evident, and her research demonstrates that as well, and her writings and so on. So civil rights, obviously, okay? But there's another dimension, and that's her commitment to educating future generations that I don't think is emphasized enough by others who write about her or talk about her and so on. And I first witnessed what I thought was her effectiveness in that field, bringing forth the traits that I mentioned earlier: engaging, vivacious, friendly, skillful, attentive listener. I first saw that up close in Greensboro when she was at North Carolina AT&T, or North Carolina A&T. I got to get the name right. When I visited one of her classes, when I myself was on a trip to several different states to try to recruit primarily students who came from not so favorable socioeconomic circumstances, but who were nevertheless very smart and very clearly had potential for success as a US diplomat. And A&T was one of the colleges that I visited, and hence went to one of Millicent's classes and gave a pitch on the profession. But I could see how she related to her students and how they related to her. They were drawn to her. That was very obvious. And it occurred to me that, she is in a field where that is a strong advantage in terms of giving confidence and courage and enthusiasm to young people who came from difficult circumstances, to realize that they too can do great things that they never even thought about before. Millicent has had, through the education dimension, a very powerful impact on many young people. You need to have that as a complement to what she's done on the civil rights dimension as well.
So lastly, Ambassador, wanted to give you an opportunity to say or congratulate Millicent, or have any words, remarks for Millicent regarding the Commitment to Justice Award.
Yes, I do congratulate her tremendously. And it's a recognition that she has more than earned. And my only additional comment would be, keep on doing what you do as well as you do it. There are a lot of younger people whom you are inspiring, and we need to do this and carry your legacy, your work forward. Congratulations.
Hello, Candy. I'm glad that you're here, to speak on Millicent and how you know her and so forth. So starting off, when did you first meet Millicent?
I think I met her in the summer of 1961, and that would have been at the Highlander Hope School, where she and her family used to spend time in the summer.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. And what was your first impression of her?
Well, she was probably 12 or 13, and she was a very lively and wonderful teenager, but she also had, you could tell she had some real commitment and some seriousness about life as well. So she made quite an impression on me. We were all very young in those days. We were all very hopeful about the kind of world we were trying to create, and she certainly fit that, and it was lovely to meet her at that point.
Awesome. And what is one specific story that represents Millicent's character?
Well, when I thought about this, I mean, she's done so much, and she's such a powerful person. But I think, to me, she's a real long distance runner. And the fact that she was one of the people to help integrate the schools in Charleston when she was only 15, and what a challenge that was. And then the fact that she's always said she learned a lot from that, both good and bad. And the fact that she's gone back and is now recording others who were in that same role as a historian, and trying to put in context what that really meant for the young people who took that role on and went through the kind of experiences they did. To me, that represents a long-term commitment to social justice that she has done very, very well.
I totally agree. And when you think of commitment to justice, what comes to mind about Millicent's role in the pursuit of social justice and racial equality?
I think she holds on to both anger and hope. And in my own experience in working with a place like Highlander, those are two really important ingredients. If you're really serious about change, you need to be hopeful. Yes. But you cannot deny how angry you are about the things that need to change. And to me, Millicent has been just really wonderful about that. Not only has she used her anger to be an activist, but also to be an educator and to help other people understand the depth of racism in this country and what it's going to take to create the kind of world we really want.
Yes, that's very moving. And then lastly, I want to give you the opportunity, to congratulate Millicent on her, Commitment to Justice Award. If you have any kind words or anything to say to her.
All right, Millicent, I'm very thrilled that you're receiving this award, and I know how you are. You will use the platform that you get from the award to keep challenging other people to work for justice. And I felt like I just wanted to also reach out to your whole family and to acknowledge the fact that Highlander, where I spent my working life, is going to be 90 years old next year. It's been working for social and racial justice for 90 years. And families like yours are the backbone of Highlander. That's who Highlander worked with. People, families, community members who had the kind of commitment that your family did, who would continually come and speak with others and share experiences. And so I feel in honoring you, I also want to honor your family in that role that was so important to Highlander. And just enjoy your evening and have a great time. And I look forward to seeing you again before too long.
Hello, my name is Tamara Butler, and I currently serve as the Executive Director for the Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture. I'm here to offer a few words and then turn it over to our keynote speaker. So in 1993, Bernice Robinson drew her letter of recommendation to a close with the following, quote, "Too often, the people who have the best stories to tell are not equipped to do the telling. Fortunately, in your candidate, are not only the experiences and sensitivity, but also the education and research skills needed to complete a true study of this community, end quote. She was writing about Dr. Brown. Dr. Brown's bio is long, extensive, and it captures just a small piece of the education and research that Ms. Robinson refers to. It is only in spending time with Dr. Brown that you gain a glimpse into how these experiences, sensitivity, education, and research skills come together. Before I formally met Dr. Brown through my interview process, campus visit, and finally a lovely outdoor lunch, I knew of her legacy. As an assistant professor, I posted a photo of her on my office door at Michigan State. Among a door covered in affirmations, flyers, and posters of Black and Brown women, one could find the widely circulated image of 15-year-old Millicent Brown chatting with fellow students outside of Rivers High School after a bomb scare this week, marking 58 years ago. What in the world were they chatting about? Anyone who knows Dr. Brown knows chatting is too frivolous and inadequate of a word to describe the conversations. Once I met her, I realized that the photograph was just a starting point for the many stories she would exchange with relatives that evening and into the upcoming weeks and throughout her life. The stories would be and continue to be inspiring, thought-provoking, and life-changing. As the director of the Avery Research Center, I have the honor of getting to know Dr. Brown in real time. So 3 lessons that I'm gaining from her. We must be willing to serve. When termites decided to turn the Avery Research Center into an all-you-can-eat buffet, we had to move our archival collections into another part of the building. Dr. Brown showed up, sleeves rolled up, with her lunch in tow. She rolled up sleeves, grabbed a stack of Post-it notes, a marker, and went to work, organizing, labeling, and even offering some gentle instructions to some of our fellow volunteers. She wanted to ensure accuracy and efficiency and anything that would lighten the load for us all, especially those who just did the process during our recent renovation. As a servant leader, she demonstrated what it looks like to be in community. Lesson 2, we must consistently engage the not yet past. We are the stewards of Dr. Brown and her family's papers, and it's an honor and a privilege to be so. We are still working through the artifacts and documents connected to somebody had to do it. While processing such an extensive collection could be tedious, especially for the detail-oriented archivists, interpretation specialists, and graduate research assistants, it can also be an empowering and enriching experience. To place your hand in one of the many archival boxes and walk through the contents is energizing. You're not only reading a story, but you're building a story, coming to know a life that is only a phone call away. In her book, Christina Sharp writes, the quote, "The past that is not yet the past reappears always to rupture the present," end quote. Dr. Brown, her papers, her advocacy, her actions illustrate that past is not the past and is very much informing our present state of living, being, and knowing. Third and final lesson, we must demand transparency. 21 years ago, Dr. Brown, in a draft of an essay on North Carolina's HBCUs, wrote, quote, "The community deserves to know what it is that can and will be different on these campuses to ensure their continuing service to the African-American community and public at large," end quote. Dr. Brown offers us a blueprint for approaching those entities and individuals who proclaim that they are working in the interests and the service of African-American community members. We can replace campuses with any institution within and beyond the city's lines to demand plans for transparency, reciprocity, truth-telling, listening, and engagement that is critical and ethical. In the words of Dr. Brown, the community deserves to know what it is that can and will be different in your curriculum, in your school board meetings, in your museums, your archives, your public libraries, your tour associations, and your beloved organizations that will ensure continuing service to the African-American community and public at large. Dr. Brown, I thank you for your teachings. Now it's my pleasure and privilege to introduce our keynote speaker, Pastor Thomas Dixon. A former alcoholic, drug addict, and ex-offender, Pastor Thomas Dixon is now a community advocate who is on the board of trustees for several organizations, including Brady United, the Charleston Alliance for Fair Employment, and the Health Workers United. He currently serves as the chairman for the North Area Democratic Club and also chairman of the South Carolina Democratic Party Black Caucus, Charleston County chapter. In 2016, Pastor Dixon ran for U.S. Senate in South Carolina, and in 2019, he ran for the office of the mayor of North Charleston. In 2018, Pastor Dixon was awarded the Wiley A. Branton Issue Symposium Award by the National Bar Association for his work in gun violence prevention. He was also instrumental in filing a lawsuit that virtually shut down South Carolina Secessionist Party, an online white supremacist group, its leader and its online presence. This year, Pastor Dixon was awarded the Harvey Gantt Triumph Award for lasting contributions to civil and human rights by the Greater Charleston YWCA, an award previously bestowed on the late Representative John Lewis, the late Senator Robert Kennedy, and Low Country legends Esau Jenkins and Septima P. Clark. Pastor Dixon and his wife, Vanessa, have been married for 38 years. They have 2 adult children, Jason and Jasmine, both of whom are married, and 3 grandchildren, Benjamin II, Brooklyn, and Brody. Without further ado, Pastor Thomas Dixon.
Good evening, one and all. Good evening. It's an honor and a privilege to be here in the house tonight. I'd like to thank Mrs. Knight Carter. Thank you so very much. And also Dr. Stevens and the person who just introduced me, Dr. Tamara Butler. I'd like to thank the Center for Heirs Property Preservation and our many guests, both present and online, who have joined us tonight to celebrate the life and the legacy of tonight's honoree and the recipient of the 2021 Center for Heirs Property Preservation Commitment to Justice Award, my friend, Dr. Millicent E. Brown. Again, thank you all for the honor and privilege of speaking tonight at this amazing, amazing occasion. I could stand here for hours just talking about Dr. Brown. I don't know about y'all, but I could, easy because of the amazing individual that she is, that person that I've grown to know and to love over the years because of that spirit that she's brought to the table, a spirit that's influenced me in the work that I do and so many others who now stand on her shoulders and continue to further the cause of justice, to operate in that same commitment to justice that Millicent has displayed over the years. I almost said for decades, I better not say that. Over the years, many have made an indelible mark on history because they were not afraid to step up and to step in and to speak out against the injustices that many around them opted to overlook. So also tonight's Commitment to Justice Award recipient, Dr. Millicent Brown, was and continues to be a champion for justice. You heard it also just said, a truth teller. And whether you want to believe it or not or accept it, a revolutionary. Many are aware of the 1954 Brown v. Board of Education landmark victory in Topeka, Kansas, which determined that racial segregation was inherently unequal and therefore unconstitutional. But this victory wasn't recognized by the school district here in Charleston County. Go figure. Mm. It would take 9 more years before a handful of African-American students marched into Rivers High School to desegregate Charleston schools. And it was Millicent Brown et al., the school district number 20, that forced our schools in Charleston, South Carolina to integrate. 1948, Millicent Brown, a native of South Carolina, was born into an activist household. Her father, J. Arthur Brown, led Charleston's and then South Carolina's NAACP in the crucial decade from 1955 to 1965. Dr. Brown credits having been born into an activist household during the height of the civil rights movement for her lifelong commitment to progressive social change, supplemented by her years of community service as a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC. In an interview, Dr. Brown recalled her personal struggles as a young child as she challenged an unjust system that just didn't sit well in her spirit. And as a preteen, whose actions would prove to be those of a seasoned veteran activist, a revolutionary. It was the summer of 1960, and 12-year-old Millicent was standing in front of the school board in Charleston County where she was preparing to enter the 7th grade. A row of men, all white, studied her as they lobbed loaded questions her way. Don't you like your teachers? One asked. Don't you like your friends? I guess they were referring to at the black school. Don't you like your friends? Asked another. The issue that ultimately lay beneath these questions was a simple one. Why did a black child want to attend a white school? In the interview, 60 years later, Dr. Brown recalled how frustrated this interrogation made her, even as a 12-year-old. And I quote, "How dare they try to make me speak ill of my black community?" See, that's fire. Y'all forgive me. Sometimes I drop back to my street. But in her responses, she didn't bristle. "Oh, I love my teachers," she told them, "and I love my friends. It's not that at all," she recalled saying. "It's just that I know there are things and facilities that are made available to other schools that we don't have. I've heard that there are lockers. I've never seen a locker in my life." That's a 12-year-old now, talking to a panel of white men about why she belongs in their school. And this response, the answer she gave to the all-white inquisition, were not rehearsed, and she was not prepped beforehand. This came straight from her heart. What she said came straight from the heart of a revolutionary. This meeting and the responses she gave established Millicent Brown as the face of school desegregation in Charleston, the person whose name would forever be linked to dismantling the educational caste system in this city that we're in right now. 3 years later, on September 3rd, 1963, Millicent started her first day at Rivers High School. But remember, though she may have been on the verge of walking into history, she was still only 12, she was only 15 years old this time, 15. And things went smoothly that first day. There were no throngs of people jeering and throwing things as we've seen in video captured of different desegregation movements during that time. But when she got to her first homeroom class, the signs that this would not be an easy ride were quickly apparent. She could see it on her teacher's face. And there were 3 bomb threats called in during those first days. And as the days turned into months and the months turned into years, things changed for the worse. The ugly side of racism showed up and showed out. When she would walk down the hallway, the white students would part like the Red Sea and go to the walls and cringe and make noises as if she was a pariah of some sort. And I'm speaking directly from an interview that was given a few years ago. Dr. Brown remarked in the interview that that's the sort of thing you never forget. How can a 15-year-old forget that kind of treatment? Indelibly scarred for life. In the ordinary person, but for a revolutionary, take that pain and you turn that pain into victory. And that's exactly what she did. There were other slights that she would experience during her next 3 years at Rivers. White girls would crowd into the bathroom stalls to keep her from using the restroom between classes. Cruel. At large gatherings of the student body in the auditorium, when students would walk in pairs down the aisle to exit, white students refused to walk with her. By her senior year, I guess Millicent had had enough. She decided to fight back. When a white classmate wouldn't walk with her on the way out of the auditorium, she held up the recessional for a minute until he finally relented. Yes. Millicent would remark of that period in time, and I quote, "I kind of got my backbone. I was not this little colored girl who's just so happy to be at their school that I'm going to let y'all dictate to me how everything works." She said she had to grow into that. I personally believe that it was during these formative years that Millicent Brown not only got her backbone, but she realized that this was her plot in life. This was her destiny. This was what she was born to do, to right the wrongs of history and to make this space we live in better for everyone who inhabits it. When asked, why did you do these things you've done in life? Why have you been a voice for the voiceless and an advocate for the underserved? I believe that Millicent's reply would simply be the line that she's used to personally define her life. I did it because somebody had to do it. But even beyond that, I believe there is something else that has driven her and instilled in her a fundamental, foundational commitment to excellence, commitment to justice that she could not escape from or avoid. Best described by American playwright Eve Ensler. Eve Ensler wrote these words to describe these amazing humanitarians such as Dr. Brown, these revolutionaries and activists like Dr. Brown, like Dr. King, like Malcolm X, like Fred Hampton, like little Bobby Hudson, like Bobby Seale, and the list goes on and on. And Eve Ensler wrote these words about activists. She said, "An activist is someone who cannot help but fight for something. That person is not usually motivated by a need for power or money or fame, but in fact is driven slightly mad by some injustice, some cruelty, some unfairness, so much so that he or she is compelled by some internal moral engine to act, to make it better." Folks, if I could just copy and paste that definition of an activist in a dictionary, close the book and open it back up, I'm sure Millicent Brown's picture will show up right next to that. Dr. Millicent Brown is the embodiment of these words. Just as activists, advocates, and revolutionaries who have truly been motivated by love for others have been that definition throughout history. Huey P. Newton was 24 years old when he and Bobby Seale co-founded the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense. 24 years old, 24. And Huey was credited with making this most profound statement, and I quote, "Revolution has always been in the hands of the young. Millicent was 12 when she went before that Inquisition. I'm going to call it an Inquisition. 15 when she stepped foot in that school and decided enough is enough. I ain't taking it. And I would be remiss if I didn't address the revolution and the revolutionary body today. Today, you see, because the revolution continues. The struggle continues. Millicent is a piece of the puzzle of social justice victory that we're still assembling. We're still writing the pieces up so we can see what real social justice will look like, so that we can actually achieve it. But now today, the revolution continues. The struggle for equity and justice and truth today is the same struggle that led young Millicent Brown to say in her heart, I'm not this little colored girl who's just so happy to be at your school that I'm gonna let y'all dictate to me how everything works. 12 years old, then 15 when she went into school. Malcolm X was 28 years old when he exited the prison system. 28. A lot of times we fashion our civil rights heroes as old people. Come on, somebody. But the reality is, revolution has always been in the hands of the young. Malcolm was 28 when he exited the prison system. 10 years later, at the same time when Dr. King was giving this speech at the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, he was 38 years old. 1 year later, at the age of 39, he was assassinated. Martin, at that rally on the National Mall in front of the Lincoln Memorial before 250,000 people, was 34 years old. 34 years old. When I talk about young today, you got to understand, next week I'll be 69 years old. Young for me, it's a relative term, isn't it? Young for me is like 40 and under. But at that same march and rally in Washington, D.C., right before Dr. King came to the podium, a young man by the name of John Lewis, 22 years old at the time, and one of the big six organizers of this 250,000 strong march on Washington, stepped to the microphone. John Lewis had established himself as a social justice giant starting at age 17 and went on for a long career of knocking down walls of injustice and pulling up those who stood for racism and getting into a little good trouble and a little necessary trouble. 22 years old at that time. You're all familiar with Andrew Goodman, Mickey Schwerner, and James Chaney. 20 years old, 24 years old, and 21 years old when the Klan murdered them and buried them in an earthen dam in Philadelphia, Mississippi. What a Philadelphia means brotherly love, except for when you are a racist white supremacist and you got people who are speaking out for the rights and privileges of people of color in America. I spoke the name earlier, Little Bobby Hudson. Little Bobby was the first recruit into the Black Panther Party, 18 years old. He was also the first to die in the struggle at the hands of law enforcement. Fred Hampton, many probably have seen the movie Black Messiah, 21 years old when he was assassinated. Locally, Esau and Janie Jenkins, Mary Moultrie, Louise Brown, Bill Saunders, Harvey Gantt, Cecilia Rogers. And I would definitely be remiss in my duty up here at this podium if I didn't mention Millicent's beautiful sister, Minerva King. Revolution has always been in the hands of the young. And today, as I draw close to a close, we have this same spirit in our midst, the same spirit of revolution, the same spirit of advocacy, the same spirit with people who get up and are driven by something that they don't understand to right what is wrong in our society. Today, we have the same spirit in our midst, the likes of 31-year-old Justin Hunt, a revolutionary and founder and leader of a group called Stand as One, and moderator of a statewide group called the South Carolina Black Activist Coalition, uniting this state in order to promote the cause of not only Black awareness, but Black power, Black love. We have 38-year-old Jason Jones, a revolutionary and the founder of the United Front of Charleston. Then there's 41-year-old school board member and founder of Voices United, Erica Coakley, a revolutionary who I met on the social justice battlefield nearly 10 years ago in the fight for 15. There's 39-year-old Taisha Aiken up in Colleton County, a fearless warrior for justice. Colleton County, a stronghold for racism where she's challenged the school system, she's challenged law enforcement and representatives who are elected to office but aren't representing the voice of the people. And she ain't scared. And a lot of times she's by herself. 24-year-old Marcus McDonald, the founder and leader of Independent Black Lives Matter Chapter of Charleston. 18-year-old Elijah Whiteside, Fort Dorchester graduate, now in school in New York, been out here on the battlefield. And 16-year-old Zacchaeus Kennard. And the list goes on and on and on. People who today, in the spirit of and with the internal driving force that Millicent Brown possesses, that Malcolm and Martin possessed, that Huey and Bobby Seale and Chairman Fred possessed. This is the same internal drive that these young people today possess. Justin and Jason and Erica and Taisha and Marcus and Elijah and Zacchaeus, a drive that will not allow them to step down, to step back, to walk off, to kowtow, or to do anything, sell out this system that is still trying to keep a knee on our neck. These are the revolutionaries of today, and these are the ones who stand on the shoulders of our honoree and her commitment to justice. And why do they do what they do? Because they're revolutionaries. And in another quote from Huey P. Newton about the revolutionary, he wrote these words. He says, "The revolutionary sees no compromise." When Millicent stood before that panel, there was no compromise. When she went into that school every day, there was no compromise. When she encountered those who blocked her from going to the bathroom, there was no compromise. She did what she had to do with dignity, respect, and brought a spirit before racism in Charleston that they had not seen in quite a few years. And from a woman. Come on, somebody. Huey said, "The revolutionary sees no compromise. We will not compromise because the issue is so basic. If we compromise one iota, we will be selling our freedom out. We will be selling the revolution out. And we refuse to remain slaves." That's the spirit that continues to drive the revolution forward. The spirit that Millicent Brown brought to the table and has continued to serve on that menu year after year and for decades. teaching others under her the necessity of maintaining not only the vision, but boots on the ground to make change, to fight for change, to stand up for change, because somebody got to do it. So thank you. From my heart to yours, Dr. Millicent Brown, for your commitment to justice, for your commitment to excellence, to your commitment to Black power, Black love in the struggle for social justice, for paving the way, and for offering your shoulders for these new Jack revolutionaries and for me to stand on. And because of that, tonight, Dr. Brown, Millicent, we salute you. And as I stand before this crowd and those who are online, I've also been tasked with the esteemed privilege of presenting the award tonight. So without further ado, I'd like to ask Dr. Millicent Brown to step forward to the podium in order to receive the 2021 Commitment to Justice Award. Center for Heirs, Property, and Preservation. God bless you, my Lord. That's okay. Because I have my mask off. Let me pass this on you. Gotta hold the bottom of it though, because it's okay. We got it? Yeah, because this is actually attached. There you go.
That was wonderful. I'm still embarrassed. Thank you to everybody who has spoken so far, especially Pastor Dixon. Thank you so very much. There are lots of stories that we have to share about our antics together, but we'll leave that for another time. Okay. For those of you who have been working so hard for so many months to make this event come to fruition, I extend my deepest thanks and appreciation for your efforts. More than anything, I hope you know that even with the changes that had to be made, the cancellations and adjustments to the format, you have pulled this night off with an audience out there, even if you can't see them all. Our collective disappointment about not gathering in person in support of this wonderful organization must be offset by the fact that we are taking the current pandemic as seriously as it deserves to be taken. There will be gatherings again when we can comfortably mingle. I'm eternally optimistic about that. But we are sending an important message of caution and respect for this incredibly dangerous challenge confronting us. Our not gathering in person should be a badge of pride in recognition that regardless of where you stand on masks, vaccinations, booster shots, social distancing, we are humanly and humanely obligated to defend public health, period. I'm proud to be associated with this and any other initiative that can absorb the inconvenience and the added expenses because it makes sense to do so, and it has benefits. Benefits for those we respect and appreciate, as well as strangers we don't personally know. Thank you, the planning committee, the heirs property staff for conveying that sentiment, as much as for the logistical mechanics that you have consumed in my behalf for the past several months. I really thank you. Now I want to quickly just thank my family members and friends across the country and throughout the state who have been incredibly supportive ever since this honor was announced. The sentiments they've conveyed and willingness to contribute time, money, even planning to travel to be with me at considerable personal sacrifice has touched me deeply. You will be hearing from me, each and every one of you, to know that each of those sentiments meant more than you know, and I'm going to embarrass you and every one of you with some kind of expression of gratitude. You can look forward to that. I've been very open with everyone with whom I've spoken about this award since being informed of my selection. I don't mind sharing with you tonight that I spent an incredibly long time contemplating and questioning, why me? Why me? Despite encouragement from many of you about how deserving I am, I doubled down in comparing myself to the illustrious list of prior honorees, who I perceive to have built reputations and laurels that far outshine mine. It took a while, but finally, I got a grip on my insecurity about these accolades and realized comparing Judge Bernard Fielding's bench experience and Lucille Whipper's institutional building success or Armin Dörfner's legal acumen turned these accomplishments into some needless competition, rather than a true appreciation for their and all the previous honorees' contributions to their community. Because I am not by nature a competitive person, I finally realized that I was being given an opportunity to represent the variety of ways in which different people commit to public service, human rights, social justice, citizen advocacy, and all other terms used to describe people who step beyond their personal spheres and personal interests. The tie that binds people like this, or the umbrella under which they stand, is difficult to define, and I don't really have insight into other people's motivations. But I share with the greatest amount of humility that I have been motivated since youth by a combination of insights and experiences that have brought clarity and commitment to facing up to the menacing historical realities of this century and actually of many centuries, during which humankind has never ceased to mistreat, exploit, and suppress itself. And there are many ways to address the evils and hurts that members of certain groups at certain times have had to face. My multi-decade long analysis of what I could offer to the assaults I witnessed against groups marginalized by color, gender, class, income, sexual orientation, whatever, are very simply played, and I hope continue to play themselves out. I believe in speaking the truth as I know it at the time, with willingness to keep an open mind, continue learning and listening, but never worrying whether people disagreeing with me are upset or disturbed. Beyond speaking the truth, I have stumbled into a habit of begging people to stop pretending that complex issues and problems can be resolved simply or swiftly and without identifiable principles which hold our actions accountable. In other words, walking the walk, not just talking the talk, and not just when others support your beliefs and stances. Especially in my years in the classroom, hoping to shape the character of future leaders and followers alike. The greatest example I've tried to show is the necessity of living consistently with that which we know to be true if we take the time to question, to read, examine reliable sources and experiences. Using as much of the brain power we have available is not noble. It's necessary for any semblance of good decision-making and problem-solving. You can't unring a bell once you're confronted with its sound, nor pretend that you just did not see the injustice and contradictions playing out in front of you. You can't do that. I am no martyr. I have not answered most of the many questions we are asked to solve about improving the lives of people deemed unimportant. But those who exert power in the classrooms, on governing boards, in the pulpits, the elected officials, and all places where we need people to openly uphold decency and respect for others, these people must be reminded. They've got to be assisted, but they've got to be challenged. My civic contributions and opinions over the years have often been rejected and criticized, but I firmly believe the processes we go through to seek answers and better ways to live together must be held to a consistent level of integrity. For example, we can all look at past failures to help strategize ways to find better approaches in the future. But that requires an honesty and willingness to be unpopular and admit we don't know it all. Thank you for honoring me tonight, for saying to the world that people are needed who do not accept expedience, that standing up against duplicitous agendas and self-serving actions really is the only way to make progress. Unfortunately, there are multiple examples in this and every local community where harsh, harmful, historical realities are simply accepted. Fortunately, since food deserts exist, groups like Fresh Future Farms was created to provide and teach healthy eating habits. Black-owned land is legally unprotected in so many cases. So the heirs property program addresses not only holding on, but making that land economically viable for its owners. A group called Citizens Want Excellence at the African American Museum advocates for a new narrative about what it means to be of African descent, when some would stick with old false depictions of the oldest inhabitants on the earth. The ignoring of Black musical genius across all genres prompted the color of music to be developed. And the Orangeburg Massacre will finally get the review and interpretation it deserves because of emerging efforts at the All-Star Justice Center. These are but a few examples of initiatives we can all support that press for institutional change, not peacekeeping and busy work that avoids conflict, which consumes so much of our energy and our resources. Each of us can be a standard
bearer for doing the right thing in our own way if we're willing to demand honest confrontation. Change takes time, for sure, but pretending that all is accomplished because we took baby steps forward must be refuted. Don't give me crumbs and call it a cake. Thank you for this honor and the reminder of our individual ability to affect change and improvement to our full world citizenry. I thank you.
I'll just say, wow. What a powerful message, what powerful messages, let's be clear, that we've heard tonight. It's just an honor. I understand that you're downplaying who you are, but I'm telling you, Dr. Brown, truly it is an honor to be in your presence, and how you have made it different for all of us. So thank you again. We want to thank all of you for joining us this evening. And we definitely appreciate the opportunity to honor Dr. Brown. We hope you enjoyed tonight's virtual celebration in her honor. And we hope that next year we might do this in person and you wouldn't have to see us virtually, right? Next year will be our 12th Commitment to Justice Award celebration. I would be remiss if I didn't, a couple of things. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank the center's team for making this happen and having to do, to switch, to do a lot of different things near the end to make this event what it is tonight. So once again, under Brett's leadership, we thank you for making this happen. I also would like to thank the Francis Marion Hotel for their flexibility in the changing of this event to a virtual one. Not all hotels are like this, so I'm gonna have to give them a plug. And we appreciate them for how they have allowed us to stream this program live from their beautiful ballroom. As we leave tonight, we want to say a special thanks once again to all our contributors and our sponsors who made this important event possible. To back up what Dr. Brown said, if you would like to contribute to our mission of justice, please visit our website, and don't forget, the auction items are still out there. You got until 11:59 tomorrow night. So in my closing, thank you for joining us, and we hope that you have a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.